Over the course of time, the planet Earth has experienced cataclysmic events that have wiped out life on the planet. Eventually, the DNA was reseeded on the planet, and once again, the humanity was populated with life. The only reason the planet has been kept intact and revitalized over time is to express the expansion of the superconsciousness itself. Isa Vasya Idagum Sarvam of the Isa Vasya Upanishad, the consciousness pervades everything. And for this very purpose, planet Earth supports human life to achieve and experience the superconscious breakthrough. To keep Hinduism alive, to manifest Sanatana Hindu Dharma, the state, space, powers, and being of Paramashiva, the ultimate in powerful living in the cosmos. For this purpose, the planet Earth has time and time again been rejuvenated. Hinduism is the proven science of the liberation of consciousness, tried and tested over thousands of generations, passed on as revealed from the original Vedas, Agamas of Paramashiva. We don't notice it every day, but nearly every single aspect of life had its precursor already commonly practiced in Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Namaskar. The divinity in me bows down to the divinity in you. Kumkum, to cleanse and energize the body's most important energy center around the cosmic conscious antenna, the pineal gland. The Hindu spiritual traditions, including Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and Yoga, still serve more than 30% of the world's population. The Divine Feminine, deities that radiate cosmic energy, accessing the divine beings, temples as energy batteries, repositories of truth, and promoting optimal societies. The science of yoga, and homas. The sari as the most energetically, consciously beneficial way of adorning the human body. Enlightenment sciences of Vedas, Agamas, temples, enlightened gurus and initiations, gurukuls, libraries, universities, manifesting conscious powers, brahmacharya, enlightened cities, and manifesting divinity. Medicinal benefits of Ayurveda, Siddha, Mehendi, jewelry, Goshala, Vibhuti, toe rings, cold baths, eating cross-legged with the hands, fasting, surgeries for brain, cesarean, cataract, fractures, urinary stones, plastic surgery, and prosthetic limbs. Scientific revelations such as algebra, geometry, trigonometry, physics, quadratic equations, calculus, Fibonacci numbers, the concept of zero, the decimal system, Chakravala algorithms, binary numbers, atomic theory, and matter as energy. And applied sciences such as metallurgy, zinc smelting, explosives, Sanskrit's science of sound, rulers, metal casting, numerical notations, microbiology, fiber optics, ultrasound machines, sound-based flight, navigation, and water harvesting, to name a few. The amazing feats of Hindus of the recent past prove that the historical records known as Puranas are actually historical accounts of great civilizations of the past and not myth or legend as Hindu foes project. Even as these civilizations were almost completely decimated from the face of the earth, they were able to create magnificent and impossible by today's standards stone temples. Each stone monument represents several magnificent aspects of the civilization and leaves us today completely baffled as to how they did it. Tanjore Temple, where did the stones come from? 1,000 years and it still is not leaning. Gomateshwara, where did they find this rare white stone 50 feet tall, and how did they get it to the top of a hill? The Iron Pillar of India, how is it not rusting or eroding after 1,600 years? And the accompanying minaret tower, how did they build it so tall? Warangal Fort, how did they carve such a perfect cylinder? Hoysaleshwara Temple, how did they carve so tiny? And Dharashuram Temple, still sharp after thousands of years. In Hampi, how can stone pillars sound like string instruments? Mahabalipuram, how did they create such a perfect hexadecagon linga? The 1,000-pillar temple, why can't we find any gaps between the stones? And why are the deities holding drill bits? The Kailash temple, How did they carve 30-meter towers out of solid rock face? And what other great sciences did they leave behind that we have yet to rediscover? What superpowers our ancestors must have had to create such impossible stone structures, even as their civilization was becoming decimated and extinct? Embracing and gifting the science of enlightenment to all before gurukuls, ashrams, and universities were brutally destroyed by barbarians practicing terrorism. Nalanda University in Bihar served students from China, Greece, and Persia. It flourished for well over 600 years. It was demolished by the marauding barbarian Bakhtiyar Khalij. Amidst 3 months of burning the estimated 9 million manuscripts of Nalanda, one of the great genocidal crimes committed in the modern era. The library was 9 stories tall, consisting of 3 large buildings with ancient sacred scriptures covering grammar, logic, literature, astrology, astronomy, medicine, meditation, physics, chemistry, microbiology, and more. A few other examples of the magnificent history of Sanatana Hindu Dharma include Takshila University, that is over 2,000 years old, Vikramashila University, a specialized center for the Vedic tantric practices of anti-sex, Vallabhi University with over 6,000 monks housed in more than 100 monasteries, specializing in political science, economics, and law. Somapura Mahavihara University, covering over 27 acres. Jagadala University, specializing in Vajrayana Buddhism. Odantapura University with over 12,000 students. Pushpagiri University with its elaborately displayed deities. Telhara University in Bihar with an auditorium to host over 1,000 students. And Bikrampur University with over 8,000 students from all over Asia. The history of Hindus living the source scriptures, Vedas and Agamas is very clear. Hinduism is real, a proven science of manifesting all powerfulness, all the Shaktis of Paramashiva.
Over 100 million source books of Hinduism document the revelation of all great technologies on the planet, but only a fraction of the original scriptures remain. From a once 56 countries, 200 states, and 1,000 provinces, the Vedic civilization has now passed without a single Hindu nation on the planet. From this context and backdrop, Hinduism Now meets the modern-day humanity.
Anti-Hindu and Hindu-phobic policies are still in act under current union and state governments in India. Schools are indoctrinated with anti-Hindu propaganda, and rampant corruption and minority appeasement results in Hindu institutions not free to teach traditional knowledge. Traditionally, in Karnataka, Hindu institutions were of 3 kinds: the temples, mutts, and free feeding houses. Today, the Karnataka Hindu Religious Institutions and Charitable Endowments Act of 1997 essentially nationalizes Hindu institutions by controlling the appointment of temple priests and servants, prescribing their qualifications, creating common pool funding, regulating government bodies for temples, appointing managing members, and overseeing the selling of temple lands. It is also possible that temple funds collected may be redistributed to support other than Hindu institutions. The HRC Act in Kerala currently sits pending adjudication before the Supreme Court on challenges that it amounts to hostile discrimination against Hindu groups. Christian Missionary Project systematically identifies, documents, and targets vulnerable minority groups for forced conversions. As per their website, Joshua Project gathers, integrates, and shares people group information for church planting movements among every ethnic group to facilitate missionary conversions and provide information and demographics of all groups. The website lists every people group under the sun and even states the estimated number of workers needed to convert the community to Christianity. It's a very organized effort to undermine faith groups in India. It's pretty clear from their database that Christian missionaries have far better success with the large diversity of lower population groups in India. The Christian missionaries believe that for Judgment Day to arrive, they must convert at least some people from every single group on earth. The Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowments Department of Tamil Nadu is the continuation of British strategy in India to control properties and wealth of Hindu temples. It goes back to before the East India Company annexed Tanjore in 1798. The attacks are mainly on worship and rituals, lands and buildings, valuables and deities, and damage and alteration of temples. Recently, the HRNCE tried to grab Chidambaram Nataraja Temple and Guruvayur Temple. By Supreme Court order in June 2011, 5 of the 6 vaults of the Sri Padmanabhaswamy Temple in Kerala were forced open and revealed an estimated $20 billion US in gold and jeweled treasures, of which at least an estimated 769 gold pots and silver bars have been reported missing. More recently, various chambers beneath Srirangam Temple in Tamil Nadu were briefly opened and mysteriously quickly resealed without ever sharing any findings with the public. These kinds of abuses continue as Hindu temples are managed under government order by anti-Hindu and Hindu-phobic forces. Anatomy of a targeted anti-Hindu attack. The planned elimination of Sabrimala Temple by anti-Hindu forces requires a relentless persecution and programmed confusion about the truth of the temple and its deity, thereby segregating, isolating, and vilifying Sabrimala, setting the justification grounds for its destruction, ultimately creating a fear psychosis by projecting Lord Ayyappan of Sabrimala to be a threat against the public interest human ideology. We see the beginnings of this attack of isolation in the Times of India published article by writer Sudha Nambudri. She quotes others and segregates Lord Ayyappan of Sabrimala as a marginalized guardian deity, in fact telling he comes from a serpent grove. She gives him a political bias, citing influences of the 17th century Pandalam king, and frames Lord Ayyappan of Sabrimala as a Jain cult, suggesting he never had any ties to Hinduism. Segregate, isolate, mix fact with lies, repeat, repeat, repeat. Relentless persecution, the isolation attack and planned elimination of Lord Ayyappan of Sabrimala. Invading the world's most popular destination, where Hindus go. The Sabrimala Ayyappan temple has been abused in many ways, but as M.R. Subramani, executive editor of Swarajya reports, it is the police presence there that has already effectively destroyed the temple. A fear psychosis has been effectively instilled in devotees, keeping them away from the temple as numbers attending itself has dwindled. By abusing Hindu sentiments, the police state threatened to execute a physical attack on Lord Ayyappan by escorting one woman to throw sanitary napkins on him. The police state then used the reaction by devotees to enact Code 144 and execute thousands of arrests, including the homes of devotees, then blanket the entire Sabrimala path with police to frisk devotees, warn them not to chant Lord Ayyappan's name, then arrest those who did. While the general public is distracted in the Supreme Court debate and other arguments, the police state has already succeeded in swarming the Sabrimala temple with their army of fatigues and military boots stomping inside the temple grounds. Already the military is there. Twitter has tried to dismiss CEO Jack Dorsey's attack on Brahmins as a misunderstood rhetorical comment. But as Rakesh Simha from IndiaFacts.org notes, because Brahmins preserved Hinduism's most important elements over thousands of years to the exact tone and accent of every letter and syllable, they were experienced by Western British invaders as the one standing in the way of their planned looting of India. Priesthood was hereditary among Hindus, and every Brahmin child was a potential priest, he says, thus enabling the traditions to be preserved. Simha continues, the root cause of the anti-Brahmin movement was created by Britishers themselves in places like Tamil Nadu and Bengal by co-opting Brahmin communities and promoting them as the apex group against the rest of Indian society. But in Haryana and other places where the British influence was less, Brahmin populations were not at all seen as discriminantly dominant before or after the British occupation. It is true, Simha notes, Brahmins were a huge irritant to the two desert cults who have been trying to convert India for over 1,000 years, and the Western identification with Christianity is so strong that agnostics and atheists are willing to say they are cultural Christians while expressing their hatred of Hinduism. It has, it seems, just become a knee-jerk reaction, rhetorical pattern of attack. HinduPost.in reports, from Sabarimala to Thrissur city, the run on Hindus, Hindu holy people, and Hindu holy places continues. From the world's most visited pilgrimage site to Kerala's cultural capital and biggest temple festivals, the degradation of the cultural and political legitimacy of Hinduism continues almost unabatedly now. The booked idea from Devaswam temple governing boards is to build all sorts of concrete installments in the middle of the Thrissurapuram festival grounds, making it near impossible to gather and move in the area. As the deities go, temple tanks disappear, priceless Hindu artifacts gone, and temples sold and grabbed. Next is Thrissurapuram at Varakunathan temple. On the traditionally crowded and standing room only elephant procession area around the temple, the plan is to prevent Kerala's biggest Hindu temple festival from happening each year, simply by confiscating the land, via alleged construction plans of Devaswam that violate court orders, but nonetheless include an amphitheater, statues, seating locations, water pools, concrete slabs, trees and benches, a plaza, a chessboard, concrete tiles, bamboos and flowers, and an exercise gym area. Whose plan is this? In hundreds of years, Hindus don't need exercise gyms, chessboards, and benches in their procession grounds here. Thrissurapuram is a massive celebration of joy and sharing, with great training and care for the temple elephants. But this is the next target.
There is no single land that has the political legitimacy of Hinduism being protected. No place where the remaining 20 million source books of Hinduism are kept alive without getting destroyed. Let's at least have a few thousand people manifesting this power manifestation science and oneness with Paramashiva. We need people not only manifesting powers of Paramashiva, who will be able to initiate others into manifesting Paramashiva's powers. Understand, we are losing the Gotras of the Rishis, the most non-violent, the only tradition which neither promotes terrorism nor supports forced conversions. For planet Earth to be alive, this spiritual tradition needs to be alive. First thing, practice Sanatana Hindu Dharma with the spiritual strength. Once we bring spiritual legitimacy to Sanatana Hindu Dharma inside our heart, then we simply will know social legitimacy, religious legitimacy, economic legitimacy, all of the other legitimacy. The need will be understood. Only if we have these can we keep the spiritual legitimacy alive, this great spiritual science alive. Temples are laboratories, but library and Gurukul is the university where this science is kept alive, and the system how to use the laboratories is taught, practiced, expounded. Getting the kids back to Gurukul, that they will live Sanatana Hindu Dharma, is the only hope for humanity and Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Let us have at least one place where Vedas and Agamas are legitimate, accepted, the cosmic constitution is accepted and legitimately allowed to exist, so that this library, these scriptures, these kids can live and practice and keep this science alive for the future. Let us keep this last lamp of Sanatana Hindu Dharma alive, so it can light millions of other lamps. Let us not allow the possibility of bad news. Because Sanatana Hindu Dharma is cosmic constitution, Hindus did not spend too much time possessing the land, but this has been too costly. Now, our integrity to Hinduism is our integrity to humanity, to planet Earth. Bring spiritual legitimacy, religious legitimacy, social legitimacy, moral legitimacy, economic legitimacy, cultural legitimacy, and political legitimacy to Sanatana Hindu Dharma. All the efforts, good work we are going to do to protect Sanatana Hindu Dharma and spread the Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Let us do our spiritual work.